it's a touching moment for me. This will be my last public event as Prime Minister.
We got a lot of moving parts. Welcome back to Moose and Loose. My name's David. Today we got Jagmeet saying we knew this day was coming. Jagmeet saying confirms that he will be supporting the Liberal government once again. We've got Pierre Poilievre at a press conference delivering a strong message back to Donald Trump. He's also on a podcast with Brian Lilley. Donald Trump complaining about dairy again. The Liberal government banning more pew-pews. We've got a bunch of stuff. Let's jump into this. So first up, we got this one from Table Salt. It says 18% differentials between polling firms in Canada with margins of error of 2.2%. That's funny. Someone is lying to Canadians. This should be illegal. So this is coming from 388 Canada. You can see here Ecos, B+, yeah, right, more like a Z. They're the ones coming out with these 41% for the Liberals, just complete filth data. You got Leger with 30% for the Liberals. You're seeing multiple different things ranging here, 38, 29, 31. That's why if you just look at all of these, you can basically say the Liberals are at 30, 31%. And the Conservatives, looking at these, they're about 41, maybe 42%. Dirty data trying to sway the public opinion. Why should this be illegal? Is harm being done to people? Yes, harm is being done to people. You have news organizations literally running stories about people sleeping in their cars. Of course, harm is being done to people. We got this one from Gary Keller. It says, Frank Graves here deleted a post from last night on X, deleted his nasty partisan biased tweet, as he said. If you're not familiar, Frank Graves is responsible for Ecos, that's his company, Ecos Data. Let me sum up the latest results in terms that will be understandable to even the slowest opponents. Conservatives effed, thank Trump, you are welcome. This guy absolutely hates the Conservatives, and he's running a dirty polling company. Frank needs to put a breathalyzer on his X account. Got this one here. It says Hudson's Bay Company, oldest retail chain, nears bankruptcy. As Kirk says here, this is heartbreaking. This couldn't be more symbolic to what is happening in Canada. This is pretty symbolic. Next up, we got Pierre Poilievre here on News 1010, interviewed by Brian Lilley.
Tell us what you think we should be doing to respond, because retaliatory tariffs, that's short-term stuff. Trump's going to unleash their economy. What do we do?
Unleash ours. We need to grant permission to Canadian businesses to build pipelines, mines, LNG liquefaction facilities that can get our gas on a boat so it can go off to Asia and Europe and break European dependence on Putin while turning dollars for dictators into paychecks for our people. In other words, bring home our resource jobs. You have to repeal the anti-energy law C-69 that Trudeau, Carney, Liberals put in place.
That every premier of every political stripe has opposed and taken to court and won at.
Absolutely. The unconstitutional C-69 that Carney supported. We need to massively increase our resource production, approve pipelines for construction to get our oil to both the Pacific and the Atlantic.
It's just outrageous that the Liberals are the one who put in a No Pipelines Act, and now they flip-flop and say they're all in support of it. Their record is in Parliament. They have an act in there with no pipelines, yet we have elderly CBC-watching Canadians who still want to support Mark Carney and the Liberals. The delusion in this country is unbelievable.
We need to compress the time it takes to get a mine approved from 17 years today to it should be about a year to approve a mine. We should have the fastest building permits anywhere in the OECD. I'm also going to pass a massive bring-it-home tax cut on work, investment, energy, and home building.
Now, why would you do that? Because a lot of people hear tax cuts and they say, oh, well, we've got to cut something then.
Well, look.
As in cut services.
Right now, the taxes are so much higher in Canada than they are in the U.S. That's why $500 billion has left our country for American economy. Why do you think Mark Carney moved his headquarters to New York? Why do you think he, while he was at Brookfield, moved so many billions of dollars out of Canada into the United States, taking our jobs and giving them to the Americans? Because the U.S. economy is much lower taxed and it's easier to do business there. So the reality is, as long as we have higher taxes, significantly higher taxes on work, investment, home building, energy, our jobs are going to continue to flow south even without tariffs. We need to bring that money home.
This is well said. Pierre's right on the ball. What's interesting about this interview, too, is Brian pushed back a bit and said, well, if you're going to cut taxes, Doesn't that mean we're going to be cutting services as well? It's an honest question with an honest answer. You'd never get that from Justin Trudeau. And now we're seeing Mark Carney as an even bigger liar than Trudeau. You won't see him answering questions. Next up, we got a clip here from CBC Watcher. So we've got Andrew Coyne here talking about how he doesn't think that the NDP wants an election anytime soon because their numbers are so bad. And we're going to see the clip coming up after this. Jagmeet Singh confirming this, that he will be supporting Mark Carney, which is interesting because just the other day we had that NDP member come out and completely blast Mark Carney, calling him out, Brookfield Asset Management, for not paying $6 billion in taxes. So it seems they're taking their jabs, trying to lower the Liberals' numbers, get their numbers up, yet still supporting them.
Setting than it was at the beginning of the race, partly because the Liberal support in the polls has come up so much since then. Only, I think, partially because of the race itself, but maybe partly in that, but mostly as a result of events south of the border. So, you know, it's they've got a little bit of a different strut in their step, perhaps. Mark Carney has not had a great race, if you ask me. He's not exactly set hearts on fire. There's been a few questions raised about his veracity, but it's hard to see anybody else winning at this point. I hate to just, you know, thump home the conventional wisdom, but that sure seems like the case. I think the other thing is, I think there was a lot of talk that, as soon as he gets in, he'll want to go straight to the election. I'm not so sure that's the case for a couple of reasons. One is, I think if you're him, you surely would rather be seen to be governing for a bit. You'd rather be putting together a cabinet, meeting Parliament, etc. And I think you can do so now. Maybe I'll be proven wrong, but I'm getting signals from the NDP that they're not quite as keen as on voting no confidence anytime soon. That may have something to do with them being down at 10% in the polls.
Yeah,
but
yes.
I don't think it's I don't think it's a given that the minute they meet Parliament that they're going down, and maybe rightly so. And if we're right in the middle of an April 2nd next round of tariffs.
Interesting, Rosemary's got to jump in there, a little snicker about the NDP. Her bias is so obvious, it's disgusting. But I think he's right here. Maybe Carney wants to govern a bit. Looks like they're getting support from Jagmeet, Coyne, a man who's named after his motives. Coyne's only perspective is anti-Trump one. He'd burn the country for his vision of justice. The entire panel will reap the reward of their betrayal and partisanship. Can't wait to see a whole lot of Rosie standing in the unemployment line. He has no House of Commons seat. Can he do that? There's a by-election coming up in the Halifax riding, so he may try to nab that seat. It was like a 50-50 toss-up last I checked of Liberals winning it. Then he'd have a seat. Then he could govern till October. Maybe he does another dirty deal and pushes it past October. We're not going there unless that actually happens, but that would allow him essentially almost 2 years to govern before we could kick his butt to the curb. Where will things go? What I think will actually happen is Mark Carney and his team, they're going to look at the polls, say, did we just peak and now we're going down? Maybe we should wait. Or if they have their internal numbers saying, oh, you're still going up, then they might call that snap election. They have real polling data. They know full well that the Frank Graves polling data is garbage. They'll actually decide based on the real data that they're hiding. With that, we've got this trader here, Jagmeet Singh, says will not trigger a non-confidence vote until the government passes support for workers affected by the U.S. tariffs. Now, pay very close attention to his words in this clip.
So, am I understanding you correctly? A confidence vote is completely off the table until you get some sort of support for workers through.
Yeah, so I'll put it this way, to be very clear. We believe at this time, with the urgency of what we're up against, the seriousness of the impact on our economy, on workers, the threat to workers' jobs, the increase in cost of living, that we want to see protections in place first and an election second. We're going to have an election this year. We're ready for that.
We're going to have an election this year, election second. That doesn't mean anything. He's basically just saying we can have an election in October.
But we want to see supports for workers done first. For us, this is a matter of putting workers first. An election can come second. So yes, absolutely, we are ready to see supports passed in the House, put in place, working to support people who are hurt right now, and then we'll go to an election. He's
going to support Mark Carney in his throne speech, because that's the only way for Carney to come back, because they're prorogued. They have to have a throne speech and come back, pass a budget. Jagmeet Singh's going to support all of that. Who didn't see this coming? Brace yourselves, Canada. We're becoming a communist state. So what he pretty much said was, let's cause massive inflation, increase the debt, and pass it on to the Conservatives once they win the election. The NDP is a nasty stain that just doesn't want to disappear. Yeah, basically this. I hope this party loses party status next election. They're on the edge of it right now. now, and that's the real threat. So if they have an election right now, they could lose official party status. Then they wouldn't get those extra benefits and extra funding. You got to check out this clip here. So they got a couple guys on here talking about the auto industry in America and how essentially it was built up by Canadians and Canadian companies, and Donald Trump's tariffs is just throwing an absolute monkey wrench into the whole situation.
People are breathing a sigh of relief given the comments that come with the reprieve. Like, you can avoid the tariffs permanently if you take your business to the United States.
Why are our Michigan jobs in Canada? Why are our Michigan jobs in Canada?
Yeah, it's all really kind of nonsensical in a sense. We see Lutnick saying, bring those jobs back. Those are Michigan jobs. Those have been Ontario jobs for 120 years. I think there's tens of thousands of people would like to have a word with Howard Lutnick. 172 Canadian-owned parts factories in 26 U.S. states employ 48,000 Americans. We're not fly-by-nighters here where we're trying to take something from you. Those are tens of billions of dollars of investment that could happen here, but went over there. And when Lutnick talks about Michigan jobs, well, I think there's a few companies here that want to talk about the jobs that they put together in Alabama, Tennessee, Texas, that could have been in Ontario, but went where it made sense because we're partners.
Checkmate. Wow, that's quite a statement. That was gold. Who is this guy? The Liberal government knows nothing about attracting manufacturing. Maybe if they actually did something like scrapping the carbon tax and removing ridiculous regulations, maybe some of the companies would come. Instead, we're focused on tampons in men's bathrooms. This is a great comment. Ford built Windsor in 1904. Lutnick needs to learn his portfolio before he flaps his gums. I mean, this just goes back to what I said before, Donald Trump and his administration being a wrecking ball. They bulldoze through, and if they have to backtrack and repair, that's essentially how they're operating their government. Next up, we got this buffoon here, David McGuinty, Trudeau's Minister of Public Safety, announcing creation of a Parliament District Policing Program, inciting an increase of protests in Ottawa, particularly the famous Freedom Convoy. They want to add more security for parliamentarians that are stealing Canadians' tax dollars. You have to be kidding me.
At this time, we're seeing an increase in hate-motivated crime. Our frontline police folks know this. We're seeing threats to both our communities and our elected officials. We see it every day, whether it be online or on our way to work in the morning.
The bigger question is, why are you getting that? We have so much crime, corruption, and scandals, money being stolen. In Parliament, they call it corruption, but it's just theft. If a normal person did this, we would be in jail. We'd be in jail for a long time. A Canadian, that is, not a refugee from Gaza, but a Canadian would be in jail for a long time. Yet because they're elected official, they're allowed to steal money? Why is Annette Verschuren not in jail? Why is Stephen Guilbeault not in jail? Like, what happened with Christian Firth? Why is he not in jail? Or Min Doan for deleting thousands of emails? Randy Bowson out. Fake Indigenous company. Why are all these people not in jail? That is why there's an increase in this activity. Now, I don't agree with that activity happening, but that is why. If you want to know why, that is why. You guys are corrupt losers who should all be in jail.
Know this, we acknowledge this, and we need to deal with this. Canada's Parliament has always been open, accessible, and welcoming.
Except when you lock Canadians' bank accounts because you guys are traitors to our country. And this was proven in court. You guys broke the law and nothing happens. I'm telling you, Canadians are going to stop paying taxes and it's going to get worse from there. This government has to go or this country will fall. Does anyone find the timing of this announcement before a general election odd? It is odd. Okay, yeah, we've had enough of this. Bounce castles and hot tubs are bad, but this is okay in Canada. Yeah, no kidding. Remember Telesat Lightspeed, that satellite company that Mark Carney is good friends with the CEO, who got $2 billion of our money to not produce satellites? Well, they're back in the news here today. Convenient timing. So Mark Nixon got this one here saying, is this even legal? Well, so this money was approved back in September. This is a loan, but this is an interest-free loan for, I can't remember what it is, 10 years? It's a long time, 5 years, 10 years. The loan's entirety, I believe, is 15 years, but interest-free for a good portion of that. Just think if you got $2 billion for free for 5 years, just say 5 years, you could stick that in a GIC at 4%, you would end up making $80 million per year on interest. If you had a good money manager getting you like a 7% return, 8% return, you get $160 million a year in interest. That's why this stinks of corruption.
Often when we talk about space innovation, we look to distant horizons. Today, innovation is happening right here in the heart of our community, in the heart of our city. Today, we're announcing the construction of a new $25 million Telesat facility in Gatineau, and funding for this facility will be supported by the federal government's $2.14 billion investment in the project. Once complete, the Telesat Lightspeed Campus, on appelle ça un campus, will be more than a building. It will be a stronghold of technological leadership.
It'll be a building full of laundry machines washing day and night. Canadian corruption in one photo. Liberal parasites must go. Agreed. So we got some breaking news as I'm filming this. This is just how this goes these days. We've got Trump threatening 250% tariffs on Canadian dairy. I keep mentioning this. Rip open these tariffs. Make them all equal.
In Canada, you know, we find that they're charging us over 200% for dairy products. You know about that. And when I left, we had that well taken care of. But under Biden, they just kept raising it. Very difficult to deal with the Canadian representatives. 250% for dairy products, tariff. So where do you hear that? You don't hear that.
It depends on the dairy product. What I was showing on the channel just yesterday was 241%. If you add in Trudeau's 25% retaliatory tariffs, then it goes up to 266%. But those tariffs weren't in place up until just a couple days ago. And it varies drastically depending on what the product is, whether it's butter, whether it's sweetened, whether it's organic, whether it's dried, what the fat content is of the milk. Skim milk is different than whole fat milk versus 2%. Regardless, the whole dairy supply management system is stupid in Canada because Canadian farmers dump out excess milk when we have people that are starving and skipping meals. You can't make up this level of stupidity.
They have a tremendously high tariff. Give you the exact numbers in a little while coming out on lumber. So they sell us lumber. They have a tremendous tariff. They make it impossible for us to sell lumber or dairy products into Canada, but our numbers are a tiny fraction of that, almost non-existent. And what we're doing is freeing up our forests from the environmental nonsense that they put on them, where you can't cut down a tree. And we have to cut down trees in order to build the firewalls. And those trees are sold, but we're freeing it up on an emergency basis because Canada has been ripping us off for years on tariffs for lumber and for dairy products. 250%. Nobody ever talks about that.
If we want to talk fair, America's been ripping us off for years with oil and making an absolute killing on it. Your economy runs on our cheap oil. That's why life is so good in America. Cheap gas equals cheap transport of goods, which lowers the price of everything. So let's just keep it square here.
250% tariff, which is taking advantage of our farmers. So that's not going to happen anymore.
And that's true. Let's just keep it fair. Canadian dairy supply management system is unfair to the Americans.
They'll be met with the exact same tariff unless they drop it. And that's what reciprocal means. And we may do it as early as today, or we'll wait till Monday or Tuesday. But that's what we're going to do. We're going to charge the same thing. It's not fair. Never has been fair.
Matt, where exactly are we with tariffs? What's the status of these tariffs today?
Yeah, it's incredibly confusing. It feels like every hour almost there's a new tariff that is threatened or dialed back or delayed. I haven't looked at my phone in 90 seconds, so I might have missed another tariff threat on Truth.
So before they go forward with that, I think this is actually a really smart move by the Trump administration because they're forcing Justin Trudeau to negotiate because those dairy tariffs are stupid. They really are. They're unfair. And if they tariff dairy that badly, it will decimate the dairy industry. Just time to just get rid of all those unfair, stupid tariffs because it would help all industries across Canada and America instead of having certain gatekeepers holding all the power, making all the money, screwing over all the rest of Canadians. For example, the dairy industry. And if you see the videos too of dairy farmers in Canada, they don't want those in place. They don't want to dump their milk out at the end of the month. That's excess. It's stupid.
Social, but look, 20% tariffs on China, that did kick in on Tuesday. There's also 25% tariff on Canada and Mexico, excluding autos and products that are compliant with the USMCA trade agreement. 10% tariff on Canadian energy and potash, which is a compound used to make fertilizer that American farmers need. But look, there's more tariffs that are on the way. Maybe. I mean, the president has threatened to impose new tariffs on steel and aluminum imports next week. Early April, there's tariffs that loom potentially on products from the European Union. On autos, there's the reciprocal tariffs. And then later on this year, potentially tariffs on copper and lumber, timber, semiconductors. You mentioned the new tariffs that were just threatened today on Canadian dairy products.
Well, once again, Donald Trump, the wrecking ball, just plowing through. Who knows what's going to happen here? Will Trudeau make some negotiations? Trudeau's not going to get out of this with just simply, you remove the tariffs, we'll remove the tariffs. They've targeted dairy now, and something has to happen with it. Next up, I got a clip here of Pierre Poilievre calling out what Justin Trudeau and Liberals have not done in the past 100 days since this threat of Donald Trump tariffs has emerged.
What we know is that since President Trump first threatened these tariffs almost exactly 100 days ago, the Liberals have done precisely nothing to make us more self-reliant. They continue to make us weak. We have the anti-pipeline law, C-69, still in place, the carbon tax still in place, the threat of a capital gains tax increase on our investors still in place. Not one tax has been cut, not one regulation has been removed. Not one step has been taken to give permission to our incredible businesses and workers to build things in this country. And so we are in a position of weakness, not only after 100 days of the Carney-Trudeau Liberals, but after 10 years of the Carney-Trudeau Liberals. And now they want us to give them a fourth term. After 3 terms in office and 10 years of making Canada weak, the Carney-Trudeau Liberals want us to give them a fourth kick at the can. Sorry, 3 strikes and you are out.
It's unbelievable that they've been in power this long. Next up, we got this story here, which I can't show you any lower because it shows a pew-pew, but Canada outlaws another 179 types of pew-pews, announces classification review. That's right, they're banning more pew-pews and they're increasing security at Parliament just before an election. Very interesting moves that they're making. Next up, we got a clip here of Captain Schmuck doing what he does best, making everything about himself.
What a pleasure to see leaders of industry and different sectors across the Quebec economy gathered here today. It's a moment for us to talk about what more we can do. The strength of unity from all different sectors right across the country is our greatest strength right now as a country. I will also say it's a touching moment for me. This will be my last public event as Prime Minister.
Woo! Don't let the door hit you on the way out, Trudeau.
So or one of my it's my last one till Sunday night anyway. So it is a big moment for me to be home here in Montreal, able to do this.
It's all about me. Trudeau, no one cares. You destroyed our country. You're not a loved Prime Minister. There we have it. It just every day is changing. Trump's now saying tariffs on dairy. What will it be tomorrow? Will he pull those back? Will it be doubling the tariffs? Who knows? This is a real mess. Like, we need an election immediately so we can finally just get this situation cleaned up once and for all. The political landscape is just going to get messier and messier. The key question is, how long is Jagmeet Singh and the NDP going to support Mark Carney going forward? Is it just going to be a couple weeks, a couple months? Is it all the way until October or further? If there's one thing we've learned, one thing that is true is Jagmeet Singh is an absolute sellout.